Hey guys, Isabel here. Welcome back to Reeled In. So the fourth episode of Loki came out last Wednesday, and today I'm going to do an analysis for you guys. So episode 4 of Loki starts off with an Asgard from Sylvie's timeline, and we get to see a hint of Sylvie's backstory. One thing I noticed is that her outfit is almost the same as grown-up Sylvie. So I wonder if she kind of went back to Asgard or like a different timeline Asgard a few times to steal clothes as she grew up. As we see that she steals the temp pad, it might be a possibility. Also, in regards to Sylvie's character, I said in my episode 1 analysis that I thought she would become Lady Loki from the comics, although Sophia DiMartino has confirmed that Sylvie Laufey-Daughter is inspired by both Enchantress, which is a character from the comics, but she's also not Enchantress, but a mix of her and Lady Loki. So Sylvie is a completely original character with an original backstory. So all the stuff that the comics offer probably isn't going to help us as we try to determine what Sylvie's backstory actually is. But immediately the TVA enter her timeline to take her away. And of course we're all wondering what her Nexus event is. And this may be a long shot, but I think she was arrested for having a good heart. When she was playing with her toys, she was playing a Save Asgard scenario the moment she was arrested. She told the TVA cops to help the variant in pain, and if being a Loki in the sacred timeline means that it has to be a villain, an antagonist to a hero, she was on the wrong path. Another thought I had though is that perhaps her crime was simply being born as the wrong Loki. But as I've really been thinking about it, we have seen a lot more variants of Loki that I would have actually expected to see. And Mobius even admits that Loki is the most common variant that they've had to prune. And I'd like to know why. Why are there so many of them, and why do they want to prune all of the Lokis? Perhaps there's a big bad up at the head of the TVA who really doesn't like Loki and wants all of his variants that don't die prematurely to die, because Loki himself on the sacred timeline has died like a bajillion times so far. But as they bring Sylvie in and she goes through the process of becoming a variant, notice how there are what looks like scorch marks at the bottom of this device, perhaps indicating that robots have attempted to enter the TVA and they have been disintegrated. And why do the TVA not want robots getting through into the TVA? Like, I feel like a robot could also cause a Nexus event. Like Vision technically is a robot. What if he caused a Nexus event? So just something I found interesting. And we also see that it's Ravonna Renslayer that brings in Sylvie and subsequently loses her as she is easily able to escape. So my question is, how does Ravonna, at the time Hunter A23, become a top judge of the TVA? Which leads me to believe that she knows more than what she's letting on, and is most likely even in on most of the TVA secrets. And I'll talk about this more later on in the video. Also, Ravonna basically did nothing to stop Sylvie's escape. So like, was Sylvie her very first case? Like, she kind of just stood there and let the girl run. And if, or I should say when, we find out how much she knows about the TVA, why does Ravonna appear to be frightened of the timekeepers, as it's revealed later that they aren't even real? Also, Renslayer 100% lied to Mobius about C20.
She enchanted C20. Scrambled her mind.
And killed / pruned her to stop C20 from revealing the big secret to the rest of the TVA.
She could have information.
She's dead.
The secret that they themselves are all variants. And I'd like to know the reasoning for the secret in the first place. I said last analysis that perhaps all the TVA workers remembering their past and sort of starting an uprising might lead to the multiverse the sacred timeline is keeping from happening. And I still think that might be a possibility. As for reasoning, I'm not exactly sure, but it definitely proves the TVA is a malicious entity. And we saw that even when they were going to execute a child, young Sylvie. But Loki and Sylvie at this point are still stuck on Lamentis, and we get an interesting tidbit from Sylvie.
The universe wants to break free, so it manifests chaos.
And that is that the universe wants to break free and subsequently creates chaos by trying to do so. And that makes me wonder if perhaps the sacred timeline isn't supposed to exist at all. It's commonly mentioned that the existence of other Earths exists in the MCU, most recently in Spider-Man Far From Home. So perhaps the world is supposed to break free, and whoever is controlling the sacred timeline is doing so for their own nefarious purposes, or perhaps foreshadowing that the control this being thinks it has over the world won't last very long. Also, Sylvie's quote,
The ends of 1,000 worlds.
Poetry, and also very Treasure Planet. And then we get to the nexus event that this title was portraying, and that is that Loki and Sylvie fall for each other. And I'm here for it. I called it. And if you think about it, the fact that these two found love and created a nexus event means they were never supposed to find love at all, which is kind of sad. Going in further, since Loki and Sylvie are supposed to be kind of the same person, Loki loving himself is what caused the nexus event, which means he was never supposed to love and accept himself as he is. Also, the nexus event that they caused was different from the other nexus events that the TVA usually have to prune. So, and I'm thinking this means that like their nexus event that they created was a lot more powerful than the others.
You ever seen a branch like that?
So I wonder what their feelings for each other means for the future. Because I feel like they're gonna cause some really big things. Not sure what they are yet. We gotta wait till the next episode, I suppose. Although Mobius does say that their love could break reality.
Chip, that's pure chaos. That could break reality. It's breaking my reality right now.
And I wonder if that's the big Nexus event that will cause the multiverse. Because I feel like that will happen in this series. But the TVA find them and they capture them. And Mobius puts Loki into a time loop, basically. But in doing this, we get to see Lady Sif again. Loki is reliving a moment where Sif attacks him after he cuts off her hair. And this is actually a myth taken from Norse mythology, where Loki cut Lady Sif's hair, which she was very proud of. He then went to the dwarves to have her hair made out of golden strands, which was so beautiful that it actually led to the dwarves making other items for the other gods. It's good to know your myths. Also notice the sound the loop makes when it replays itself.
Just a bit of fun.
You!
Which I think is a nice little detail. And then Mobius tries to interrogate Loki. Loki tries to act all tough, but notice these tears in his eyes when he momentarily thinks Sylvie is dead. Like at this point, he may not be admitting to himself that he has feelings for her, but he's definitely caught those feelings. The love is real. And at first we think that Mobius doesn't really trust what Loki has to say, and I'm sure he doesn't, but there is a small part of him that wants to believe. Because later on, we see Mobius start to distrust Renslayer by stealing her temp pad so he can find out what really happened to C20. I'm assuming the whole conversation between him and Renslayer was Mobius's way of testing her, and obviously she failed. And it makes me wonder what she said to him that made Mobius suspect her of not telling the truth. And throughout this episode, B15 deals with whatever fragment of memory Sylvie shared with her, and eventually goes and talks to Sylvie about it. And Sylvie restores B15's memories. Now my girl B15 is on the Loki's side, and I'm here for it and excited to see what happens with her character. But going back to Mobius's switcheroo, Renslayer wasn't easily fooled and quickly stops Mobius's attempt at helping Loki escape. Then she prunes him. I'll give it to her though that she does look kind of sad about it, but still, girl. And Mobius definitely knew what was going to happen to him as he answers her previously asked question.
You know where I go if I could go anywhere. Wherever it is I'm really from.
And confirming basically his allegiance with Loki and not her. And look at how Mobius's death affects Loki. Although we know Mobius isn't gone for good, as we see in trailer footage, this makes me wonder though, if it's a different timeline or different Mobius that we will see later on. Going back to my two Mobiuses theory I had in my other analysis videos. But now they're going up to meet the Timekeepers, and on their way, Sylvie asks Renslayer,
What was my Nexus event? I don't remember.
Renslayer smirks, confirming in my mind Ravonna has officially become the antagonist and may actually still hold a grudge against Sylvie for escaping, as Sylvie's emotional pain
It was enough to take my life from me.
kind of seems to bring Ravonna joy. Then we meet the Timekeepers, who upon first glance seem small and kind of garish. They are sitting high and far away, shrouded in mist, and when they speak, their voice echoes like they are in a room much larger than it appears. And I sort of got the Wizard of Oz vibes from this when Dorothy and the gang talked to the perceived floating head of the wizard. Also, the echoing could mean that their voices might actually be coming from another source, as we quickly realize that the Timekeepers, or at least these entities that are perceived to be the Timekeepers, aren't real. But B-15 comes in to save the day. She throws Sylvie her sword, which means she actually had to break into Renslayer's office, which makes me love B-15 even more. Also notice here how Loki is distracted by his concern for Sylvie's well-being. The feelings are there, people. And Sylvie decapitates the mid-Timekeeper, and a detail I noticed and found odd is why would the other two laugh at this occurrence? Like, obviously it's revealed soon after that the Timekeepers are animatronics and not real, have never been real. So who is running the TVA if not the Timekeepers? My theory is on Miss Minutes. She basically lied again in episode 1 about the Timekeepers, and I think she can easily control both the animatronics as well as the rest of the TVA, as she can jump both into the real world as well as into technology, as we see her jumping into the computer when she's trying to teach Loki about the TVA. She could also be the cosmic being that I've been thinking is a quality the leader of the TVA possesses. She doesn't seem exactly corporeal in the real world, so technically she could belong to another larger being. Another thought I know has been circling the internet is that Kang the Conqueror is the head of the TVA. And this does have some merit, as he is in love with Ravonna Renslayer. And the fact that makes me consider this theory is that Ravonna is ready to die when Sylvie defeats her.
Do it. No.
In the comics, Ravonna declines Kang's affections and thus ultimately sort of sets Kang off edge. So perhaps if Kang is the puller of strings, he may have Ravonna tied up as well. It would explain how she rose to a position of power even after making a huge mistake, one that still hasn't been rectified, which would be her loss of Sylvie. And perhaps as a trade for her high rank, she is now sort of stuck in this position of power, carrying out the bidding of Kang. We'll see though. I have a feeling we'll get answers next episode. And then the Timekeeper guards are defeated, and just as Loki is about to reveal his feelings for Sylvie, he is essentially stabbed in the back and pruned by Renslayer. I think it's interesting because I feel like it parallels the times Loki has stabbed others in the back. And maybe even recalling Loki's metaphor last episode about how love is a dagger, but when you reach for it, it's not there, as Loki is technically stabbed, but not with an actual blade. Even notice that as he's pruned, it starts from where his heart is. And we have our first end credits scene of the season. Loki wakes up in some altered timeline, and he asks if he is in hell. The captions say that he asks this with one L instead of the usual two, indicating that he's asking about the Norse hell. And he looks up to see himself surrounded by different variant Lokis. Richard Grant is the comic book Loki. We always see the MCU characters depicted, ironically, as their comic book selves, which I think is awesome. We have boastful Loki, who is holding his own version of Mjolnir. I probably didn't pronounce that correctly. We have Kid Loki, also from the comics, and an alligator Loki. They seem to be in a destroyed New York timeline, as we can spot the Avengers Tower in the background. And as it has a Quinjet landing pad, I'm assuming the timeline is sometime after 2018. Maybe a failed battle with Thanos. But again, I'm sure that'll be answered next episode. But that was my discussion and analysis for episode 4 of Loki. As for next episode, I think we're going to get a lot of information about the TVA and what it actually is, as Sylvie has Renslayer hostage. And we're going to find out more about Loki and the other Loki variants and where exactly is he stuck. And there I feel like they're probably going to attempt to get all the Loki variants together and sort of get back into the TVA. But those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys thought, what you thought about the episode, and did you guys see something that I missed? Let me know in the comments. And be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more analysis videos, as well as reaction videos. But that's all I have for you guys today, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.